Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2 has had a huge opening weekend at the box office, outperforming expectations in the US and internationally, quickly becoming a success for the filmmaker and studio. But can it sustain this growth long term? How well do I think the film will have done once its time in theatres is finally up? And will we eventually see a Dune Messiah film? In this video, I'm going to be discussing the box office results and what I think towards there being another movie, along with giving you my prediction on the global number the film could make at the worldwide box office. Before I get into it though, if you want to keep up to date on any of my upcoming videos on Dune Part 2, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating, subscribing to the channel, and turning on your notifications. But without further ado, let's dive into the box office results from the opening weekend of Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2. So Warner Brothers and Legendary have successfully revitalised the box office with the release of Dune Part 2. After a few terrible theatrical months, the highly anticipated film by director Denis Villeneuve, featuring a star-studded cast that includes Timothée Chalamet, Zendaya and Austin Butler, has exceeded expectations by earning an impressive $81.5 million in North America during its opening weekend. Not only has it doubled the earnings of the first film, but it also holds the title for the biggest opening of the year so far. This achievement marks a significant milestone for Legendary, expanding the fanbase of the Dune franchise on the big screen for a worldwide audience. Additionally, it stands as the most successful opening to date for both director Denis Villeneuve and actor Timothée Chalamet. Part 2 is also causing a stir internationally as well, raking in $97 million from 71 markets for a total global opening of $178.5 million. Now, it won't be released in China until next weekend and Japan the week after that, so that may propel the global numbers even further. And we know that selling sci-fi movies in certain regions can be challenging, but Europe and other areas globally have more than made up for any potential shortcomings. The United Kingdom had the biggest performance in Europe with $11.5 million, followed by France with $9.3 million and Germany with $8.4 million. The film also performed exceptionally well in IMAX theatres, contributing to $32.2 million, which is a massive 18% of the overall earnings. IMAX had its biggest opening ever in 10 individual markets, showing that Villeneuve is performing on a similar level to Christopher Nolan when it comes to that premium format. Right from the outset, Dune Part 2 had a big Thursday preview, earning $12 million, more than double the $5.1 million that the original Dune made in previews during 2021. This preview showing was the strongest since Barbie, which brought in $22.3 million in July of 2023. When it comes to the overall weekend number, Dune Part 2's $178.5 million ended up just slightly behind Christopher Nolan's Oppenheimer, which opened to $180.4 million worldwide. Of course, the numbers that Dune Part 2 has attained are just early figures, and the actuals set to release in the next day or so could go up or down. Regardless, the number it has already achieved just shows how strong this opening really is, because both Oppenheimer and Barbie ended up being two of the highest grossers of last year. The early prediction for Dune Part 2 on opening weekend was between $72 and $75 million domestically, and with it coming in slightly higher, that's only good news for the potential longevity of the film. After enduring a bad winter, theatres are relying on a movie like this to kickstart a steady flow of anticipated films that were delayed due to last year's labour strikes. The original Dune made over $402 million globally in 2021, which was a great achievement given the challenges of the pandemic and its simultaneous streaming release on HBO Max. And now Part 2 can hopefully go even higher and maybe even double the first film's total to get moviegoers excited for other releases to come. The long game versus opening weekend will obviously be the true test for director Denis Villeneuve. And this leads me into the main question of how much Dune Part 2 will make in its entire run. If you remember my Part 2 box office predictions video, I said that I thought the film could make anywhere between $700 and $800 million worldwide, doubling the box office of the first film. Based on the early numbers, it seems like Dune Part 2 is on track to make that, and I think it really depends on the second and third weekend numbers to give us a better idea of how it can hold up. Because it's outperforming expectations though, I'm going to slightly alter my prediction from before and say that I think it can make around $850 million by the time it ends its run. Now sure, it could go even higher than this and cross the $1 billion mark that some people are saying it could hit, and to be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if it did that. But staying realistic to the numbers we have in front of us already, a $178.5 million global opening makes me think that anywhere between $800 and $850 million is possible. Using Oppenheimer as a benchmark, Nolan's film made a slight bit more and ended up around $950 million. But with the Barbenheimer phenomenon, the longevity of prestige films that Nolan had made successes, and the world talking about the film for months and months, the only way I see Dune Part 2 topping that number is if it receives a similar level of discussion over a longer period of time. So if it is to reach the $1 billion club, it would have to sustain its momentum for a good few months. I think it will have great longevity at the box office, but I think in terms of the final number, $850 million would be a likely target at this current point. We'll just have to see, and right now there's no denying that the numbers it's pulling in are extraordinary, and when a film doubles what the first did, it really speaks to the growing fanbase of the Dune franchise on the silver screen. This is not a case of just book readers going out and watching it over and over again, it's a lot of the general audience making numbers like this possible. The performance of Dune Part 2 is of course one of the most important aspects surrounding the future of the Dune universe on the big screen, and its success will determine whether we get that next installment. Villeneuve is keen on making one more film with a Dune Messiah adaptation, and Warner Brothers also has a spin-off series, Dune Prophecy, due out later this year on Max. But staying with the aspect of theatrical, will we now get a Dune Messiah? Well, I think it's a no-brainer at this point, and with these opening numbers for Part 2, it only indicates an upward trajectory for Dune, especially when it comes to the big screen. Dune Messiah is undoubtedly going to follow Part 2, and the only question we can really raise surrounding its release is when will we see it. While Denis has started writing the third film, he's also got 3 other projects in production, including a Rendezvous with Rama adaptation, a Cleopatra film, and another secret movie, which he reckons will be the project he focuses on rather soon. In addition to this, the Dune Messiah story is set 12 years after the events of the first book, so depending on how he adapts it, there will be at least some time that's needed for both making that film and allowing actors to age up for the story at play. My guess is that he'll do his secret project first, and that will probably come out around 2026. I think he'll then either make Dune Messiah or his Rendezvous with Rama film. So with that in mind, I think we're looking at a release window for Messiah of around 2027 to 2029. Yes, it is a long wait, but after what we've seen with Part 1 and Part 2, as long as the director delivers in quality, it will totally be worth it. The early box office suggests that most of the audience agree with that, and all that's left now is to see if Part 2 continues its momentum over the next few months. But that was my video discussing the box office performance for Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2. Things are looking very bright for the future of Dune on the big screen, and it's going to be interesting to see how Part 2 holds up. Will it continue to bring in big numbers and reach the kind of success that Oppenheimer had last year? Will it go beyond that? Or will it drop after the first week or so of pulling in high numbers? I think that last option is very unlikely, and I also think the buzz that the film has generated will only help to fuel it over time. Like I said, I think it can get to around that $850 million range, and I wouldn't be surprised if it went even higher. But what do you think of the current box office for Denis Villeneuve's Dune Part 2, and how much do you think it will make by the time it ends its run in theatres? Let me know down below in the comment section. For much more videos and news on Denis Villeneuve's Dune universe, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.